This video is for business leaders who want employees who want to do the best job they're capable of every single day and to attract that exceptional talent that I talked about in recent videos, including yesterday's. So I came up with a kind of cool saying, and that essentially is meaning makes mindful and mindful makes meaningful. In the background here, I have the usual challenge, and that is to have enough real estate to put the best title, the title the algorithm likes, that also makes sense for humans. So make work meaningful is great, but it misses one of the most critical parts about how to make work meaningful. This isn't find your why insofar as it's missing a critical component. The company's why and your why as the owner is totally, completely, and utterly irrelevant to your employees as personal individuals with their own why, with their own meaning. So the real title of this episode is Make Work Personally Meaningful. So not only does meaning make mindful and mindful makes meaningful, but the opposite is also true. If what people are doing is not meaningful enough to them personally, to what they care about, then they will be disengaged. And I looked at the recent Gallup information before I did this video. It turns out over the last 50 years worldwide, only about 15% of employees fit into the category of engaged. So engaged is mindful. And even in the US, only about 35% of employees are engaged, which means, of course, that 65% of employees fit into the non-engaged category. It's no mystery at all to think that, if all their work is a place to put in time, collect money, and not get fired, that you're getting far less than their best from them, and even from yourself, unless the work is done in a way or the culture allows for that work to be made personally meaningful. So in ESL, or English as a second language, there's something that everybody knows, and that is, oh, well, shadowing is good for your English. Shadowing is the mindless repetition of something that a native speaker says. So exactly what I'm saying, you just say it exactly the same way. And for some reason, everybody in Japan, I just spoke to a PhD about this, a doctor, a medical doctor, who says, oh, I should shadow, right? It's like, well, shadowing is barely more than useless. It might help with your pronunciation, but it's usually done wrong to even have a significant effect on that. The reason is it's meaningless. If I talk about how I like to go to Mukogawa, the local river, or Muko River, and fly my kite, and you couldn't care less about kites, you don't even know what a quad-line kite is, well, how much of that are you going to remember? You can repeat it perfectly, but it means nothing, and therefore you're not mindful, and therefore you're not going to remember it. So while shadowing, or anything that's meaningless to the person engaged in it, is not at all sticky. Repetition without meaning is, let's call it anti-why, right? Because the find your why, well, repetition of something without meaning is anti-why. And it's funny because everybody goes, oh, no, learning is all about repetition. But if it's meaningless repetition and it's not engaged, if your brain isn't engaged in deeper level processing, it's utterly useless. It just looks like education. It just looks like learning, and makes a less than informed teacher who was taught that, and that's sadly way too many of them, that, oh, well, repetition is good. Yeah, if it's done correctly, like anything else. But unfortunately, it's been translated over to the oversimplified repetition is of any kind is always good, and that's simply not the case. So it's interesting because meaning actually transcends language. So of course, because I've done lots of language teaching, I've thought about this deeply and a lot. And that is, I can think of an animal that climbs trees, likes bananas, and is very smart. I don't have to tell you what this animal is because you know, and not because I gave you the meaning. I forget which game does the same thing, but you can avoid the actual word. And if people understand the meaning, then they get it. And in English, of course, it's monkey. In Japanese, it's saru. But when you're speaking your own native language, do you really think in your language before you speak? And I would argue rarely. You think in pictures and meaning. But when you're speaking a second language, you often go through your first language, which is a mistake and causes problems and delays in your language production and your language understanding because you're not mindfully in the language you're trying to produce in. You're mindfully in your native language and you change it to another language. Lots of problems with that. So we can do the same thing. That's what's happening at work with people. It's like, I go to work, I do A, B, C, D, and E. I do it every day. It means nothing. I couldn't care less about it. I go there for the benefits. I go there for the money. I go home at the end of the day. I live for the weekend. I couldn't care less about my company other than it survives to help me care for my family, which is something that is meaningful to you. Okay, so we need to do something about this. And there's a very simple way to do this. We call it topic nomination. So instead of talking about some silly thing that I care about with my students, especially my advanced students, I let them topic nominate or vote for what they want to talk about. And then we spend our time learning English, or even during my consultancy. I'm not saying, hey, here's what we're going to do. I need to first of all learn what their challenges are and then what their concerns are, and we start there. Same thing. If it's not meaningful, people don't attend to it. They're not mindful of it. It becomes mindless, forgettable, and subpar in every aspect, neurologically speaking, but also behaviorally speaking in terms of the results you get. That's disengaged employees and the majority of the worldwide workforce, as I've already said. So autonomy allows for what's called topic nomination. So at work, if all you ever do is, after they're trained properly and you want to have a culture which attracts the best talent and so forth, is let people do their work in any way they damn well please, as long as it gets done in a timely manner and at a standard equal or above what is done by using your supposedly best practices, which are, and I love this from Adam Grant, merely better practices, which then therefore gives you the frame that those practices aren't finished, but could further be improved, but they're the better practices that you know now. So I love that part. So you can put guardrails or restrictions or micromanagement on people, but it's not a desirable thing to do. In fact, one of the best reasons or best ways for those guardrails to go up, that is to restrict how they do things or to make a strict procedure, is if and only if you have no choice, if the way they're doing it isn't working. And even then, the best way is to train them to become self-aware. It's like, well, you know, the way I'm doing it isn't working as effectively or giving me the same results or as time as effective as the way someone else is doing it. And the fact that they're discovering that for themselves is really important because they'll buy into it. They don't have to go, well, I just do it this way because you told me to. But this idea of autonomy is related to making something personally meaningful, or the first stage of it, right? So when you raise these guardrails, if at all, should be immediately, that is honest corrective action, but you're correcting the action, not fixing the broken person, because the person isn't broken. The action just has another way it should be done that would help them get better results for them and those that they love, right? So while perfection isn't attainable, improvement is, and much of that improvement can be realized through allowing them to do things autonomously. So exactly what that looks like, the best way for people to work, depends on specific things that varies by individual, by industry, and by situation. So in other words, it depends. But what doesn't depend, what is virtually universal, is our brains and how they work. So to that end, and the neuroscience behind that, and to that end, I want to recommend a couple of videos, and that is Crush It Club 69, which is Follow Your Bliss. And that is when something is personally meaningful to you, you're going to work your butt off to do it. If you don't care, you're going to quit, or you're going to be far less engaged. And the research supports it. And there's some information in there that'll help you with that. The other one is Mindful Learning, which is a talk that I just did recently, or a video I just did recently, Crush It Club 143. I'll put the link there. So with rare exception, we all want and are motivated at work by what Daniel Pink described as three things: mastery, autonomy, and purpose, more than we're motivated by money. So if you want your employees and yourself to deliver your best work, and you want to attract the most exceptional employees to your company and have them stay, make work personally meaningful. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.